My name is Willy Bolander. I study influence, persuasion, and leadership in selling and sales management, and I teach people how to sell. In this podcast, we'll talk to some of the world's top sales leaders and see what we can learn from them. Welcome to the Sales Lab. All right, we are here with Aaron Elliott. Aaron, you are the COO of SRS Distribution.
Yes, sir.
And thank you for joining us today. SRS is a company that is sort of heavily involved in a lot of our programs here at Texas A&M in the industrial distribution space, in our growing tech sales area. And maybe we can start by just tell us who SRS is, what you guys do, the markets you serve.
Yeah, so SRS, we've been around for 17 years. We're a specialty distributor serving the building products market or industry. So think products like roofing predominantly, siding, windows, doors, decking. Roofing would be residential roofing and also commercial roofing. We started a new solar business as well, too. And so we're a national distributor, over 500 locations on the building product side that I just described. We also have two other verticals, one in landscape product distribution. So think hardscapes, think lighting, think irrigation. And then we also have another vertical in pool supply and equipment distribution. A year ago, we went from being a private equity-backed company for the previous 16 to 17 years to being acquired by the Home Depot. So we're now part of the Home Depot family. We celebrated 1 year anniversary on June 18th. So we're 1 year into the integration. It's gone extremely well. And the reason for Home Depot wanting to acquire SRS is obviously they've built this incredible retail business in building products at over $150 billion. It's the most well-known and trusted name of building products in the world. But they've tried to figure out how do they get into this complex pro category, serving the more professional contractor, the builder, the commercial space. And they've tried different ways over the last really 2 decades. And some things have been successful, others have not. And so they finally made a decision last year that rather than trying to beat them, let's join them. And they acquired us in order to really go lead the pathway towards the pro, because that's the backbone of what we do at SRS. And so far, again, we've had really good job on the integration side. I think everybody's very pleased with the results and how we're able to add the capabilities of Home Depot with what we're doing and how we can best serve our customers.
This content is brought to you by the TIES Sales Showdown. That's the Technical, Industrial, and Engineering Student Sales Showdown, hosted right here at Texas A&M University. We have over 200 engineering students taking sales classes every semester and a growing minor program in technical sales. These students are smart enough for STEM and savvy enough for sales, and the TIES Showdown allows them to demonstrate their selling skills in a role-play competition where industry partners, like you, serve as judges and provide them coaching feedback. If you're hiring for technical, industrial, or engineering sales roles anytime in the next couple of years, this is an event you can't miss. You can learn more at tx.ag/ties. That's tx.ag/TIES. Hope you can join us. Well, and I think that sets up my next question, which is, okay, so your customers are contractors at probably different levels, right? Contractor could be one person try to pick up some jobs and make some money. It could be a large organization with, a large labor force, and, it could be a big operation. So you've got kind of a wide variance on that front. But why would a contractor go to, because, they have that special desk at a Home Depot. Sure. Why would I go to the desk at Home Depot as opposed to working through SRS and kind of a sales rep?
Yeah, great question. So I think part of what we've got the opportunity to do with Home Depot is that concept of meet the customer where they're at. So if I'm a newer contractor, a one-person operation, just starting out my business, the services I need are probably going to be very different than a more complicated customer, more sophisticated customer, or more tenured customer that's larger, multi-location, maybe national in scope, multiple people, and so on. So the services in there really determine what's the best pathway for them to go. And there's many people, many contractors that can be served very well through the services through the Pro Desk at the Home Depot. And they've done that extremely well. It's convenient, 2,300 locations, access to many products. And in many cases, when those contractors go there, if they need roofing materials, for example, Home Depot is then going to drive that quote back through us, because we can do the big, bulky, and heavy type delivery and service to where we may be delivering the roofing for that particular contractor, but they're going to buy through Home Depot. As that contractor starts to become larger, they need additional services. Then it's really, where do we pass the baton between what they're able to do by going into a Home Depot at a pro desk, and then what they can do with using the services that we're going to provide at SRS. And so that's really where that baton gets passed between what's the best way for a customer to interact with us and what's the best way for us to serve them as well too.
Okay. And so what are these extra services?
Yeah, so many cases it will tie to supply chain and logistics, quick turnaround, the ability to get materials. We're going to be, again, heavily weighted towards roofing or siding. So if you're a professional contractor and that's the bulk of the business that you do, you're likely not going to be able to wait for the delay in delivery between going to a Home Depot pro desk and when you're going to need materials. It's going to need to be on the ground. You're going to need to do will call. You're going to need to have full access to different types of equipment for delivery needs that you're going to have on the job site. You're going to need next day service with delivery capabilities. There's a whole digital component of how you run your business that you're going to need to support with, and that's going to need to integrate with your supplier, which we can do, and you would not typically find that today through the Home Depot. Those are typically where the differentiations are going to come into play.
Okay. And that's good to know. And I think, maybe getting very basic here, but if I imagine a contractor and they're in a pickup and they can pop into Home Depot and you can fit an awful lot of stuff in a pickup. Mm-hmm. But what you're describing is jobs where you can't fit all that stuff in a pickup. You're going to need a fleet of pickups to get all the stuff to your job site. A contractor attempting to do that would spend a week driving back and forth to Home Depot if they even had the supplies. It's probably requires a little bit of force to get somebody who's not familiar with this to really think about what that looks like, right? I mean, Home Depot's huge. They've got all this stuff. They got tons of inventory. Well, not for a commercial roofing job, they don't, right?
Right. Yeah. And even for residential, it's obviously residential roofing is a big business. You walk into any Home Depot, you're going to find it on the shelves of a Home Depot, but in a limited assortment, right? They're just not going to have the space to cover the breadth and depth of inventory that we'll carry. So it'll be one brand of product, maybe a couple colors that are in there and a couple accessories. You go to an SRS, you're going to have access to really all the major manufacturers available and stock on the ground. You're going to have access to all the colors and all the accessories that go with that. So if I'm a professional contractor and I go call on a homeowner and I figure out what they want and what their needs are, again, they could order from that entire spectrum of what's there. The contractor knows with confidence they can come back to SRS and we're going to have that material on the ground in most cases and then be able to serve their needs very quickly. And if they run into an issue on a job and they need 2 more bundles to finish it or some other product to do it, they can either call us and we'll deliver it for them, or they can come pick it up at will call in order to finish that job and keep that speed and ease with what's taking place. The second part is each market can be a little bit different in terms of what the kind of the normal delivery requirements are for a market. Some markets are what we call ground drop. So we bring the product to the job site. We've got a forklift on the back of our truck. We're going to unload the pallets of material on the ground, and then the contractor will apply them on the roof when they're ready to go. Other markets are rooftop delivery. So we have equipment that we can deliver the product up to the roof itself. We have our people up on the roof. They're going to then scatter that product around the roof in order to make it easier for the contractor from an installation standpoint. Those are differences in services that if you go to a Home Depot, again, they do a great job at what they do, but they're not going to offer that breadth and depth of service capabilities as well to meet the needs of the contractor.
What you're describing is something we try to impart to the students. I sometimes use this. It's kind of an old model, but it's pretty useful. It's called the total product model. I think it came from this Harvard guy in maybe the 50s or 60s, Ted Levitt. And sort of says, we have this core product. We have the thing that we sell, or I sometimes even like to think about it as the problem we solve, right? The basic service provision. And then around that, we have kind of the expected product, right? Okay, it's going to have a certain brand, a certain reliability, a certain gauge, a certain, whatever, all the specs that you just sort of expect. And then around that, we create what's referred to as the augmented product or the differentiated product that is, things that your competitors can't do or things that people can't get elsewhere. And as you move outward in this model, the things that are motivating people to buy get way more abstract and often very disconnected from the product itself. And so what I hear you saying is, the services you're providing are driving the desire of a contractor to do business with SRS. The timing. Well, what does timing have to do with a shingle? Well, kind of nothing. What it has to do with is the ability of the contractor to run their business and finish jobs and be profitable and be successful, right?
Yep. Yeah, I think distribution. So I've been in this industry for 30 years. First half of it was in manufacturing. So I was making stuff, right? I could differentiate with the product, the color, the look, the feel. Second half of my career has been in distribution, and we don't make anything. It's all about service. That is the differentiator. That's our product, right? In terms of what we do and what we bring value to the supplier to make their products easier to buy, but then obviously for the customer to just make their lives easier. So we talk about speed and ease a great deal about what we do. And you think about a contractor in our space, most of the work is done outside. So you have so many uncontrollables about what's happening in your life, right? Weather. I'm looking outside right now and a storm just popped up. So we've got rain happening right now. Well, it was sunshine just 30 minutes ago. So you just think about the elements of what you can't control and what changes in your life. People don't show up at a job site. Things change with the homeowner and you need to switch dates in terms of what's taking place. Many different things that happen. Traffic, flat tires, you name it, all the stuff that occurs. If we can be the calm in the middle of that storm for them, that they can take an order, put it in our hands, and know with confidence that SRS has got it. They don't need to worry about it anymore. And then they go about dealing with all those other things that are happening, that chaos in their life, and we can just be the steady. And we do that. That seems like table stakes. And to a degree it is. But the fact is, most people don't get that right. They don't do it well over and over and over again and consistently. So our ability to do that, that predictability, the dependability with that becomes a significant differentiator. And that comes in different ways. It is, hey, I know and have confidence that SRS will have the product on the ground. I can count on them that I can get that quick turnaround in terms of what's taking place. I know that if SRS tells me it's going to be there tomorrow by 10 a.m., it's going to be there tomorrow by 10 a.m. SRS gives me the ability to track it. So I know when I need to send my crews there, and I'm not wasting labor with people sitting around waiting for that product to deliver. I can make commitments to my customer, right? As a contractor, it'd be the homeowner in this case, and know that that's going to reflect on their trust and confidence in me and my brand. And I can count on the fact that my supplier, SRS, has got my back and they're going to make my life easier. That's really, from a distribution standpoint, if I was going to simplify it, where the magic comes into play and what we try to do. So it's really to be that calm and the steady in there. And then we can bring these other value add services around it based on the needs of the contractor. Not everybody needs them, right? Digital is becoming more and more important to them. There's ways that we've integrated that so that it's a seamless operation for them, less duplication of entry, order gets entered correctly, so you got less errors from what's taking place, easier view and information at their fingertips. But if they don't feel comfortable with that, we're still going to offer the high touch services as well too. You're going to be able to see somebody eyeball to eyeball. You can pick up a phone and somebody's going to talk to you. It's not going to be an automated response. Like, we're going to have a balance between those two, again, meet our customer where they're at.
No, that's great. And a whole lot of research and marketing has been performed over the last several decades looking at things like product quality and service quality, and finding very often, if not all the time, that the service quality is what's driving customer satisfaction, loyalty, profitability, that you can get the product exactly right. It can be a home run. And if the experience around that product isn't pristine,
sure,
then you don't get any credit for it.
Yep.
I'll pick on, there's a I don't want to make anybody mad. I still go there to get coffee. There's a coffee shop in town who I think they have some of the best roasts. They have, excellent, however they train their barista. I don't know how it makes a difference, but they do a very good job. The product quality is 10 out of 10. And the service is mind boggling. You go in there, I generally have some coffee that I like around the office and at the house. So I go in there and get a bag of coffee and say, I need it ground up and all this, and they do that for me. And it can take, well, let me ask you this. How long do you think it should take for a bag of ground of beans, coffee beans, to get ground up and put back in the bag?
I would think a minute or two it should take.
Yeah, I would think, I'm a little more impatient. I would think like 15 seconds, Okay, all right, you're doing other stuff, a minute or two.
Yeah.
No, it'll take 10, 15 minutes to get this bag of coffee, and you're going, and the reason is actually very, you can tell exactly why this is happening. Their supplier, so here's a distribution issue, right?
Yep.
Their supplier has these cute little bags with like a little Ziploc on the front.
Sure.
But every coffee grinder is made so that you can open the top of the bag and put the bag under the coffee grinder. You hit grind, it does it. 15 seconds later, all your beans are ground. And then you just, roll it back up and give it to the customer. But these cute little bags that their supplier gives them have this little Ziploc that doesn't fit on the thing. So they will literally pour the beans in, grind maybe a third of the bag into a cup, get a funnel, tap, 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 tap. And you're going, okay, now for coffee, the bags of coffee are not cheap, but I doubt you have enough margin built into this to justify the fact that you just paid somebody for 10 minutes to do nothing but tap. Just call your supplier and say, hey, dude,
change your package.
That's right. You screwed up the entire operation with these cute little bags, and you're affecting our ability to provide great service. And that should be a bigger problem than, than the quality of the product, right?
Right.
So service, I like it. And I understand that there are some technologies that are helping facilitate that. Could you share a little bit about those with us?
Yeah. So again, we're a little biased, but I will say that customers vote with their reviews, their ratings, and then what they say about the other products in the market or solutions. But we would typically be told that we've got the best digital solution in the industry. And the reason for that is it's all baked in the fact of what the customer said they wanted. Our team listens, we ask good questions, we build voice of customer in it. And our digital team is great about not sitting in a lab trying to figure it out and thinking of all the cool things they can add. They get in the field, they talk to customers, they, again, include their voice, and then come back and quickly can put solutions in place. And they don't do it so that it's got to be perfect and roll it across the country. They'll test, they'll pilot, they'll give it to people, let them put their hands on it, and then we can quickly iterate that in order to improve the overall effectiveness of the tool. And I'd say at this point, now that we're 6-7 years into the journey, a lot of big stuff's been addressed. And it's got, again, a lot of the cool features that you'd want to have that contractors have said, hey, if you can do this and put it in the palm of my hand, you've just made my life easier again. I know I can call you if I need to, but I can get a lot of the basic stuff done that I need to do at night, early in the morning, or I'm on a job site, or I just don't want to wait for somebody to pick up the phone and call. Like I can give answers immediately. We've put that at their fingertips. And we've got more things that we're going to add to that as well, too, in the very near future, based on that additional feedback of what they've said. The second part is a lot of times, again, you come up with a solution as any company, but I'm going to say as a distributor. And so now I've got this app, or I've got a customer portal they can go to online or something along those lines. And I think, again, I'm bringing value to them in what they're doing. And it's true, it does give access to information. It can make life easier in certain cases. But if I still have to go enter all that information into my own system as a contractor, and now I got to duplicate that work and now enter it into your system, SRS, to make that work, that isn't really customer friendly. And it's not easy, and it does cost and take more time. So what we've done a really good job of is being a leader of how do we integrate our system with whatever system the customer's on so that they speak to each other. And now they get all the power of whatever system they choose to use. We don't force them down a certain path. They can pick it. And then we've got a technical sales team on the digital front that goes and works with them about how do we connect the dots for them so that they can then utilize all the great technology we've put in place and put it at their fingertips, but it works within the rest of the system that they've built that is the backbone of their company.
Yeah. And the system is called Roof Hub. That's what we're talking about.
That is correct. Yes, sir. Yep.
And can you walk us through what exactly, how the contractors might be experiencing this technology?
Yeah. So, I mean, at its basic form, they want to see what inventory we have on the ground. They can see it. They want to check their price. They can see it. They want to see what are the different options from the different manufacturers if they're not as familiar with it, either types of shingles, what the shingles look like, and then the color options that are available. So again, imagine they're sitting in front of a homeowner and the homeowner's like, well, I like that product and I like that color. Can you get it? They can look at it quickly and say, yes, SRS has got it on the ground. Assuming, again, they can do it within 24 hours. Here's when we can schedule in order to be out there, and they can tell the customer with confidence what does that look like. They can place all their orders through that system or place it through their own system and then drive it 2 hours so they don't have to do duplication of entry. Because it's in their system in many cases and then it drives to ours, all their scheduling platforms work together as well too. So think about how they're scheduling their labor and so on. All that can be orchestrated across there so they can see how that's following the job itself and when they're going to actually need materials from us. It just makes life easier on that front. All invoicing is there, credits information is there, so you don't have to call somebody for that. It's at their fingertips. One thing they really appreciate is similar to how we can all do it now today with FedEx truck or UPS truck or Amazon. You can track our truck. So we give a 2-hour time frame of when we're going to be there. They can see where we're at in terms of our path for delivery and the ETA, so they can plan around that again for where their crews are at and not have wasted valuable time that's on the job site itself. We have added some other tools in there too to help them with how do they present quotes and estimates to customers. So if they don't have a more professional way to do that, we've put some pieces together around that they can enter the information in there, pull it from, again, our inventory. They know what their pricing is, but it will then present to the homeowner in a much more professional way how they'd want to present that quote rather than a handwritten piece of paper or something that's not quite as professional as others that would be in the marketplace. We've added functionality where we've got all the history of jobs they've done with us in the past. And, our business is driven around on the contractor side. Sometimes it's just age of roof and a homeowner's at a point where they need to put on a new roof. That's the most typical. But we do get, especially in this neck of the woods in Texas, where you and I are both based at, there's a lot of weather activity that happens, hail in particular. And so if a hailstorm hit College Station or McKinney, Texas, where I'm at, we can pull for the contractors in that area all the jobs that they've done with us in the past that we've shipped into those geographies where the hail has hit and provide them with that information. So if they want to follow back up with those homeowners to determine where did they have damage and would they like their house re-roofed, they're not only equipped with the address, the homeowner, all that information, but they will know as well what product did they apply there, what was the quantity that was involved, what was the color. They're armed with all that information before they ever go to the job site. One other thing that we've done is we've put the ability for the contractor to access homeowner profiles within our system. So if they get the customer's name and address, they can put it into our system, and then we scrape data that we're able to pull together, and it will take that information to basically form a persona for that particular homeowner based on their other buying patterns, on other things that they do in their life. So you'll be able to see, is that a value shopper, and they're going to be things most important to them is going to be the total dollar, or do they value quality? Do they value high end? Do they value differentiation? So maybe they want a high end product, but they're not going to want the same color that everybody else has in the neighborhood. We can provide that information up front before the contractor ever calls on the homeowner, so they can be better prepared for how do they want to approach this homeowner as well too, to try to hit them with their hot buttons of what's going to be there. So a lot of different things that we've built into it and many more to come.
No, that's great. Comparing it to an Amazon, I think is sometimes appropriate, right? That, hey, I really want to know if my socks are going to be here Tuesday or Wednesday. Right. That's important to me for some abstract unknown reason to know that,
Sure.
But when we're talking about the materials that I need for my crew that I'm paying to be on the ground to be able to finish the job, hopefully on time, so we can start the next job. Because if I can squeeze a few more jobs in every year, I increase my total revenues, my income. This is all good. Way more important than knowing when my socks are going to be delivered, right?
Unless you needed those socks because you're going to be in your best friend's wedding the next day and you need to make sure they show up on time. Now, all of a sudden, the importance of understanding that information becomes much more valuable to you, right? Because you don't have that flexibility of time of what's there. And that's what we find with most of our customers. They need that predictability to be able to schedule, going back to this idea of kind of chaos in the rest of their life. And we can bring that calm to it.
Yeah, I love that. And when I picture a contractor, I picture somebody waking up way too early. I'm going to get my coffee, I'm going to hop in a shower, but their phone's already got messages on it saying, no, there's some problems you need to fix. And they say, well, I'll skip the shower today and let me just take my coffee to go. And then they're in the car and they're going to one job site. But then, something happens. They have to, I need to go to this other job site first. And, very chaotic, very intense, very long hours, very, a lot of complexity to manage. And, probably people who are skilled at a certain trade or doing these sorts of jobs, but not necessarily skilled at running a business and doing accounting and keeping the receipts. And, maybe their floorboard's just full of paper and that's their file drawer, not because they're, careless, but because it's really hard to do this job. And there's so much chaos, as you said. And so to have them, hey, you got a phone, right? Cool. Let's simplify as much as we can, realizing that we're not going to be able to control the weather, but we can reduce the things that we can influence, we'll try to influence, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting that, even some of the things that we're looking to add into the system itself and some of the opportunities that we have now that we're part of the Home Depot that just expand that ability to service the customer. Today, if you go into Roof Hub and you place an order, that'll come through our system and then we'll deliver it. Now that's based on what other deliveries do we have scheduled, how much equipment do we have, how much demand is in the market and so on, of how fast we can turn that around. But normally it's fairly predictable, 24 to 48 hours. But if that won't work for you, if you need it like right now, we're building in options that we actually have internally today called Hotshot Hub. So you can just click the button and say, hey, I need it delivered like right now. So think of it as, Uber with food. It's the same thing with any of the building materials that you would need that we would stock at SRS. And we can use then third-party companies like Uber Freight or Curry or others that will then coordinate. Our team can look at it and say, here's who can get it there the fastest. Here's the costs that are tied to it. You just click which one you want. Now, as a customer, I'll pay for that extra freight because it's extra service, but I know I don't have to leave the job site and the product's coming to me, right? That's something that nobody else has been able to solve for. We've already got it in place, and now we're rolling it out to where not just our team can use it, but our customers will be able to pick those options as well. And then the second part is we've got, for SRS building products, 500 locations nationwide. But what we've worked with Home Depot is we don't want to view it as 500 locations. Home Depot's got 2,300 stores. So combined, we're almost at 3,000 locations that we can use to get our arms around our customer. And nobody in a competitive landscape has anything close to that. So how do we make that easy that there's typically a Home Depot within a mile or two of every job that a customer is going to do across the country? So for the convenience items, the things they need to do to respond quickly, we'll give them that option of how they can buy from us with a Hotshot Hub. They can certainly come will call it from us, but our branch may be 15, 20 miles away. Now they could go to a Home Depot, get what they need, assuming it's product that a Home Depot is going to stock, but there's a lot of stuff that they need to support a job that they can do, kind of the convenience portion of it. We've worked now with integrating our trade credit and giving our contractors, we're piloting this right now, a pro purchase card. So they can go in and buy whatever they need in Home Depot, use the pro purchase card. The Depot store will transact it and they leave with the materials that they need. But the invoice for that goes across from Home Depot over to SRS. It then goes on their SRS trade credit. It's on one invoice that will be on there. They can reconcile everything. So to your point, many times when they send their crews in, they never get those receipts back. It's a reconciliation nightmare and their CPAs hate it. Now we can get consistent pricing across any depot they buy at. They'll be able to reconcile that as they need to. And it's that idea of how do we just make life easier for them to continue to do the work and keep things moving forward in a professional way and use this infrastructure that we now have available that we've never had before. And I think you mentioned your coffee example, right? So, you can have satisfied customers, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be loyal customers, right? Like I can go in somewhere and buy coffee and have a good experience, but if there isn't some sort of connection between me and that company, I just as easily could go buy coffee the next day somewhere else because it's more convenient for me, whatever it may be, right? I just may have happened to point my car in a different direction or whatever it is. To get somebody to go out of their way to go back to that same coffee shop over and over and over again, there's some sort of relationship or connection that happened between the customer and that business in order to make that happen. That's where the loyalty happens. And so for us, when we say it's the service component of it and it's trust, I mean, trust is the foundation of any relationship. That's the sort of relationship we're trying to create with the customer. And we do that right. That's where the magic's at, that they won't even think about picking up the phone and calling somebody else. They're going to call us first and know that we're going to be able to get their back. And now that we take the rest of this infrastructure I mentioned, there's an opportunity. I won't say it makes it easier, but there's an opportunity for us to do that at an even higher level than what we've ever done before. And so we see that's really, again, where the magic's at. And for any distributor, any business for that matter, figuring out how you form that relationship to create that loyalty is really the key. Because we don't sell anything. Very rare that we would sell something as a one-time purchase. The vast majority of our customers, 99.9 of them, we're trying to get back in the door the next day because they're going to continue to need the materials that we are providing.
Constantly
it's not a one-time. Yep.
Well, we had a group of our Masters in Industrial Distribution students in for their residency week last week, and I gave co-gave part of a presentation, and we put this slide up with I forget the source of it, but it's distributors' opinions on what the most important factors are for their customers, right?
Yep.
And of course, this is the distributors, not the customers themselves, right? So there's some interesting psychology going on there, but by and large, the thing that I think it was like 84% of them said, "Oh, relationships," and I that could mean a number of different things, but we spent a good bit of time during the presentation kind of picking on that idea that, okay, now if you mean we've provided a valuable, quantifiable solution, we've fixed a problem that was costing money, we've created new opportunities that have increased their bottom line, and therefore we have a great relationship, well, that's one thing. But to say I'm fully aware that some people say that and they mean, well, we're buds, we like the same teams. We've known each other. We go way back. That's cool. That helps. It's good in the balance of things, but that is not a sustainable value proposition. That is not a competitive advantage when somebody's going to come behind you and say, "Hey, I can save you a couple $100,000, hundreds of thousands. I can save you time." Well, the fact that we both like the Dallas Cowboys is irrelevant at that point. I've got a new best friend because they've done something tangible for me.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's spot on. And we say that to our team all the time. Big difference between friendship and a business relationship. Don't confuse the two together. It's got to be anchored on a business relationship first. And again, the trust between the two. If that evolves into a friendship on top of that, that's even better. That's great. And again, I've been doing this my entire career. Part of the reason I do it, I love the people in the industry. My dad owned a lumber yard growing up, so I was born into it, and I love everything about it. And most of my best friends have come from within this industry. So there's a lot of wonderful people and great relationships that can be formed. But for those that are customers of mine, they don't buy from me or with us because we're friends. They do it because they have trust. I'm going to help their business get better. I'm going to help them achieve their goals. We're going to make sure that their future is bigger than their past. Those are the sort of things that are going to ensure they want to come back to us over and over and over again. And if we got the friendship on top of it, great. But that's never going to make a loyal customer. It just doesn't work. To your point, that's fleeting. And if somebody comes in and solves something for them that I didn't see, am not capable of doing, or again, makes their business better, They can still like me. We may go out and have drinks or go to dinner, but they're going to buy from them. And that's the part where we got to solve and make sure that doesn't get confused. It's a great point.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, we've covered a lot of, I think, useful points, but maybe I have not asked the direct question, which is, what is technical sales at SRS?
So again, most of our products are roofing related. That's how the business was formed and started. And if you ask somebody to describe SRS, we will say we're a building products distributor, and we are, but most are going to say we're a roofing distributor. That's how the identity of what's there. So for the most part, our sales team that we have out there, we call them territory managers for the folks that are outside sales. They get belly to belly, eyeball to eyeball with a customer. We also have inside sales people that are either physically located in a branch or they're in a home office. They as well are assigned customers. So they've got dedicated customers they call on. They just do it by phone rather than the physical presence. And the reason between the two, and how do we differentiate between which customers are assigned to a TM versus those assigned to inside sales, really depends on the needs of the customer and the size of the customer with how we differentiate that. And then we've got a support staff on the inside that's customer service. So if you come into the branch, who's working at the counter, who's going to help answer your questions, how are we going to service that? So that's much more of a service type role than necessarily sales, because it's reactive. We're waiting for people to come to us, right? When you look across that, most of our people are going to be generalists, meaning that we equip them to sell and have some knowledge of all the products that we make available, whether that is residential roofing, commercial roofing, siding, windows, doors, solar, any of it. We can at least answer that and help the customer navigate how can we help solve their needs. But there are some categories we have that we found we need some specialization. So commercial roofing would be one of those examples. When you deal with a large, complex commercial roofing contractor, then think about big projects, right? So this could be
an airport or a shopping mall or something.
A shopping mall, big warehouse facilities, you name it, tends to be more complicated in terms of the actual product and then the installation as well too, and very much an engineered spec that gets driven by that as well too, of what is needed for that particular job. So because of that, we will have a commercial only territory manager. So that's all they do is 100% commercial roofing. They're much more than knowledge experts. They've been trained in it. We will do the same thing within certain branches where we will have inside people that are going to be very much commercially oriented. That's 100% of what they do. They've got the background, the knowledge, the experience that they can answer those more complicated questions, and really are the resources that the larger commercial roofing contractor is going to need to support their business. So that's how we differentiate that. So in our world, that would be an example of a technical sale. Solar roofing has become a much bigger part of our business. Same concept. A lot more involved in that than just a residential shingle. And so you've got to think through the whole system that's involved with it. How are we going to go to market with that? You've got different players involved with that. They speak a different language than we typically have with residential roofing or other products. So we've got a specific group that does just solar. And it doesn't mean, again, that our other folks shouldn't have their eyes and ears open for opportunities to sell solar. And we give them a basic training and resources in order to do that. But if we get a more complicated customer or sale, we're going to bring in that technical expertise with our solar territory manager to do it. Another example would be on the digital front. So again, all of our people are expected to have a baseline understanding of Roof Hub and how to explain the benefits of that to a customer, and then how to get a customer signed up on the program and base knowledge on how to use it. And we certify them on that. So they go through training on that. If I'm a territory manager, I've got to make sure that I know at least these things to be able to talk intelligently about Roof Hub and explain it to my customer as to what the value is. But we've got then a dedicated digital sales specialist team that's all they do. So as we have more complicated questions, as we get into integration, as we get into maybe presentations to multi-locations or larger customers and the decisions they need to make on how they're going to use Roof Hub and how they're going to use it within their business, we'll bring in that digital sales specialist, typically with the territory manager, to make a joint call and walk through asking the right questions, and then how can we help serve their needs. So those would be some examples from a technical sales standpoint of how we would view that within our industry.
Awesome. And so would it be safe to say not all the sales roles are necessarily technical, but there are some that are?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
That's great. And what would be some ideal characteristics, dispositions, knowledge that somebody entering this field should come with?
Yeah. More so on the technical side, are you asking, or are you looking at just in general?
Maybe both, we can contrast.
Yep. So have you ever heard of predictive index?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah. So it's something I've used in my past or something like that for many years. And we've been using it more here at SRS as well. And it's not the end all be all, but it is a gauge or a guide of how somebody's wired, right? What's their profile? Real simple questions to answer. But you walk out with a pretty accurate view of who somebody is, as long as they answered them honestly, right? And so when you go through and you look at a predictive index, you've got 4 letters or dots that get lined up: an A, a B, a C, and a D. The A tends to be your gas pedal. And so for a outside salesperson, you tend to see the gas pedal needs to be further to the right. They're going to need to push on the gas. They tend to be more autonomous, self-starters, and so on. The flip side, if you've got somebody in, say, a customer service type role, they typically are going to need to involve the team. They're going to have to be more team-oriented about what they're doing. So you tend to see their A go back over to the left and be a better fit for how to be more of a service type role rather than maybe that hard-charging sales type role that we're looking at. And even within sales, you've got people where you've got market opportunities that you need to grow. So think hunter versus others that are more maintenance, think farmer. And that can change what that profile may look like. Okay. If you go all the way to the bottom to the 4th dot, the D tends to be your brake pedal. And it's more aligned around detail, rules, conformity, things along those lines. So if you're a generalist, you tend to see that the D is either right in the middle or it's to the left of the line, meaning there's more shades of gray. I can figure things out. It doesn't have to be all in black and white for me. When you get into technical sales, though, and there's more of a technical aspect to it, and there are certain things that you have to be very specific on, like, again, commercial roofing. You need to know and understand those specs and how things come together. You can't get that wrong. If you do, there are a lot of problems that can be created. So you tend to see those that are more technical oriented, and this includes on the technology or digital side as well, too. Their D tends to be more to the right of the line, and they're going to want things more in black and white and more specifics. And so you still got to go through the interview process. You got to ask questions on that. None of that's 100%. You're going to want to find out their background, their experience. You look for cultural fit. But having that information up front, we have found, when done properly, helps us not only hire the right people that fit us culturally, but get them in the right seat on the bus as well, too. That's going to line them up for success and what we expect out of the role. So that's some of the differentiation about how we would use it and how we view the type of people that we're going to hire for those various roles.
Interesting. Well, and I mean, what you were describing a moment ago, as far as sort of the preference for order or, black and white thinking, as you were describing it, I started to kind of make a counter argument in my head that, if I really know how these things work, would that allow me to deviate from the beaten path and actually, sort of say, okay, yeah, normally we would do this, but actually, because I know how this stuff works, I know that we can when everybody else is zigging, we can zag.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there any validity to that?
I'm sure there is, right, at times. And I think it comes to the person. I think typically what I've found, my experience has been that if again, your orientation is more towards black and white, then you like rules and conformity. You like to know teach me the way that it's supposed to be done, and then I'm going to follow that. I'm going to do what you said needs to get done. Those that are the other way that tend to, again, be more in those shades of gray, I have found typically just look for, how do we get to yes, right? Like, here's what I'm going to start with. You're telling me we need to get to here. I'll be flexible and figure out a way in between it that we can still come up with yes. Now, if you're a salesperson and you're working to close a deal or close a sale, that typically can work. But if it's coming down to things that require certain specifications or how things work together, and again, we're talking about
it's actually got to work when you put it together.
It's got to work, and it's shelter, right? I mean, that's for the business that we're in. And if you get it wrong on the roof, bad things happen. Like it doesn't matter if it's residential, solar, commercial. If it's wrong, there's probably going to be a problem. And it isn't about replacing the roof. It's all the stuff underneath it that can get damaged, that become very costly and painful for everybody in order to do that. And so that's where, again, that technical expertise coming into play really aligns more with, hey, there's a way to do it. It's been proven. There's code requirements. There's building codes that we need to meet. There's specifications that are tied in there. That's where we typically see that more technical bent person lines up on that side.
Awesome. And I'm watching the time a little bit here too. I know we're getting close, but are there any things about sales or technical sales or B2B sales that you think people are getting wrong or they misunderstand?
Go back to the digital part. There's certainly a lot of talk around that, right? And everybody's trying to figure out a way to create some sort of digital experience, which I think is great, right? I mean, again, my goodness, my wife, I don't do it as much, but she buys on Amazon all the time. And the reason for it, I mean, certainly this huge assortment, you can kind of find almost anything you want on there, but it's so intuitive and so easy to use that anybody can pick it up, right? I don't need to be trained on how to use Amazon. First time I could go there and get on the website, as long as you know how to use a mouse and you can click, you're going to figure it out pretty quickly, how to navigate that, how to pay, how to do whatever. And nobody needs to be sitting on your shoulder in order to do that. And I think for us to offer technical tools that are that same vein, that it's that easy and that intuitive, is what we need to do. And many cases, the tools that are coming out in our industry, at least in building products, aren't that way. It requires a higher level of explanation and training and things. And I'm saying if that's the case, then we're probably doing it wrong. And we really aren't solving what the customer needs. We need to find a way to get there. So I think Amazon, again, is a great benchmark for the rest of us to have aspirations to want to get to that level and continue to work on our product in order to get there. But then the second thing is, and this isn't, again, about a friendship part of it, but our industry tends to still be very relational. People want to talk. They've got questions. They need somebody to interact with. And we need to make sure that we don't lose sight of that we've got the right people and they've been trained the right way and they are professional sales at what they do and they know and understand how to create value. If you waste somebody's time, that's not creating value. So when you go and you see somebody, there needs to be a purpose around that call, right? I know you all train and talk about that within Texas A&M from some of the work I've done with you all in the past. A lot of sales professionals or people, I don't even say sales professionals, just salespeople in the industry, don't really understand that. They don't do the prep ahead of time to think about, I'm going to go take 30 minutes, an hour, 15 minutes, whatever the customer can provide me today. Is it going to make their life better by the time I leave? And if I'm not doing that, then I really need to give thought to what did I do to prepare for that call? But if I do that right, then that interaction with the human being works really, really well. And technology isn't the solution to what we're doing. It's just part of what happens along the side. We don't lead with that. And I think that's the piece that we've got to find this balance with of how do we do that and do that well?
Yeah. Well, and I'll admit my bias that I'm very skeptical of technology. Every time somebody shows up and says, "Hey, look, it fixes everything." Yeah, it'll probably do a couple cool things, Yep. But I don't know if it's going to end the world or solve everything. But so maybe I'm just curmudgeonly and negatively disposed toward technology. But there's this constant talk of disintermediation would be the big pompous word, that, everything can happen online. Technology is so great and we don't need people. But yeah, we really do, Mm-hmm. The simplest example I can think of from my own life is, shopping for a car and doing all of this research and really learning nothing as a result. It's,
Sure.
Half the people say it's great and half the people say it's bad.
Right. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
I
I'm back to where I started.
Yeah. Hey, we got these great sites where people can review it. Yeah. Look, 1,000 people said it's wonderful, and these 2 people had a really bad experience. Man, I don't know. So it's like no matter what I do, I wind up wavering in the middle. It's like, no, sometimes I just need to pick somebody's brain about it that knows a little bit more than I do. I remember I did a bunch of research years ago on a car, and I knew that this was the car I was going to buy. And I went and I sat down in it. And before I had even driven it off the lot, I hadn't even gotten out of the parking lot. And I was like, absolutely not. This is not the car. I'm not going to be, it feels like I'm driving a brick. This is not going to work. Man, I could have saved myself 50 hours of research and comparison and all of this effort if I just, talked to somebody who knew.
That's right. And I think that part comes down to all of us are individuals, right? So some people go to buy a car and they just see it as a mode of transportation to get from A to B. From what you just described, because there was a feel that wasn't there, right? It felt like a brick.
Experiential element to it. Yeah.
There was an experience that you wanted to have and expect to have with your car that others may miss. And that's where I think, again, for all of us, we've all got a customer out there some way, somehow, and going and asking the right questions and with a purpose, intent, and care that you want to get to know them better and understand what that is, helps us then figure out how do we, again, meet them where they're at. And if we do that well, whatever industry it's in, good things tend to happen. And I think at the end of the day, as we're thinking about technical sales or generalist sales or just sales in general, being very mindful of that and making sure that we bring value and we're respectful of their time, typically is going to end up a winner at the end of the day.
Awesome. Well, I think that is a eloquent sentence to end on right there. I think that bundles up the conversation pretty well. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you doing this. Sure. I think this is, part of the goal to, throughout the semester, kind of create these multiple touch points between, some of our partner organizations and the students. Of course, bringing you guys on campus whenever we can is an important part of that. But then, hey, we can record this without a 3 to 3.5 hour drive. Well, up to McKinney, shoot, maybe 4 hour drive, depending, right? So
depends on time of day. Yep.
I was up there with my kid. We got the season passes to Six Flags this summer, and we tried to milk every drop of value out of them. And I had a friend up in McKinney, and I said, well, while we're up there, let's grab dinner. And he said, oh, well, I don't think it's as easy as you think it is to do that. Let's meet in the middle. Yeah, even meeting in the middle was a bit of a
drive,
hassle. Yeah,
that's right.
So I think this is a very effective way to put this message in front of the students. Make sure they understand, when they see SRS at the career fair or at the TIES competition or wherever, that they already, that they already know a thing or two, right? So
sure, you bet. Well, anything we can do to help. Y'all are doing great work. You got a great program, and obviously we've been the beneficiary of that. We got a lot of former students that are part of the SRS team, and look forward to getting many more in the future.
Yep, should be good. Well, thank you again.
That's it for this interview. I hope you got something valuable out of it. Of course, if you did, be sure to subscribe and rate this podcast on whatever app you use to listen. Also, share this with your colleagues and friends, and let's continue to have a deeper discussion on all things related to selling and sales leadership. See you next time in the Sales Lab.